what I seen in there. There's plenty of sheep for 5, and I don't know if I would put more than that with a single season.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gary Coleman. We spend a lot of time in there too, and there are a sufficient number of tags for probably 5 rams. But like he's saying, everybody hunts on top of each other there, and I think 5 tags is a good number for the amount of mature rams there. And then the other thing, if you're looking for a place to put another non-resident tag, my suggestion maybe would be 212. They up the resident tags by 2 in there. The quality's coming up. There seems to be a great population. I think that'd be a good unit for a non-resident tag.
Where's that?
Lone Mountain.
Huh?
Lone Mountain.
Lone Mountain.
That unit's come
Well,
on.
we've always said that, you know, the non-residents should share the same experiences that a residents have. But that'll be next year, since we don't have an open season for Lone Mountain.
Man, we could talk here all day about where we're going to put that other non-resident, but you know, you found a place for it. So, Commissioner Capero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern has already been indicated, and that's that in this case, 50% of the hunters would be non-resident hunters in areas 267. Might make more sense to put one additional tag, non-resident tag in 268, which currently has 17 resident hunters in it. At least that's as much lower.
I don't have it memorized. Where's 260 here? Oh, I see. That's it.
Black Mountains.
The Mormons, right?
I mean, the Las Vegas range, for years, we've had 1 and 1.
Mm.
And I realize you can't, with the numbers you talk about, where you only have 3 or 4 tags here, 6 tags here, it's virtually impossible to do the 10% without overloading one area. But it seems to me like 50% in one area being non-resident is a little too much.
I don't have a problem leaving it at 267, but I just asked that question. Okay, what do you want to do?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Make a motion.
At your pleasure. Resident bighorn sheep, any ram, any legal weapon, hunt 3151. I'd like to change, making a motion to change 044 and 182 from 6 to 5, 205 north from 6 to 5, 205 south from 6 to 5, and then accept the rest of the NDOW's recommendations.
Anybody want to second it?
Can I get a clarification on that? Because the recommendation from the cabs was 6 to 4. Are you making
I know that.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Oh.
Spirit of compromise.
I want to make my standard disclosure. I got an application for a desert bighorn sheep tag.
Your odds are going down.
I got 17 bonus points.
We have a motion on hunt 3151 and seconded to change 044, 182 from 6 to 5, 205 north from 6 to 5, and 205 south from 6 to 5. Anybody have any question on the motion? If not, I'll call for the motion. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
The non-resident 3251.
That didn't get included in that motion?
Nope.
No.
We are still we're at 9.9%. So even with 3 tags being eliminated, we still, in order to get a 90-10 split statewide, should stay with the 21 total tags as we currently have recommended. Now, if you want to, swap out a tag and put it to a different unit, that's your pleasure.
Even reducing those tags for residents, we should still keep the same for non-resident?
We have so many desert bighorn sheep tags that even 3 less doesn't make a dent. So
It's still in the same ratio, 10%.
9.9.
You were a little higher than before.
It was like 10, 10.1, 10.2.
Okay. As long as they're still in the same 10%.
We're good for motion.
Huh?
I think we're good for motion. It's already been
Do we
published.
want to do a motion? Commissioner Rain?
Move approve 3251 as proposed by the department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to, on Hunt 3251, as proposed by the department. Anybody has any questions? All for the motion?
Yes.
Say, oh, excuse me, Commissioner Capurro?
I'd like the motioner to consider changing his motion to reduce Unit 267 under Hunt 3251 to 1 tag and increasing Unit 183 from 1 to 2 tags. That maintains the 21 tag difference, reduces that 50%,
Where's 181?
183.
Where's that
It's up,
You need that giant map on the wall. 183. I think I know where it's at. It's
I want to know where it's at first.
right.
That Lone
It's
Mountain?
way up here.
Which one?
Yeah.
Plant
Reduce?
alpines.
Plan Alpines.
Yeah.
267?
We had a motion, a second, unless we're going to change it.
That's acceptable.
Which unit were you increasing?
Okay.
Unit 183 from 1 to 2, and reducing 267 from 2 to 1.
The motion was amended and seconded, and I'll read it again. Hunt 3251, Hunt 181, we change from 1 to 2.
No,
183.
183.
I'm sorry, 183, what'd I say?
181.
Yeah, 183, we change from 1 to 2, and 267, we change from 2 to 1. Everybody understand the motion? All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. 8151.
Both the California resident, California Bighorn resident and non-resident 8151. And
Mike, could you take 8151, 8251 together?
yes. So your motion,
What's that?
or ask for public
No,
comment.
I'm going to ask for public comment on anybody. Public comment, there was no public comment on it. I'll ask, close the public comment, bring it back to the commission. Go ahead, Mike.
Nope.
You don't have any? Okay.
Chairman, I move that we adopt Hunt's, the department's recommendations for Hunt numbers 8151 and 8251.
Second.
We have a motion to approve as department recommended on Hunt 8151 and Hunt 8251 as department proposes. Any questions? Call for the motion. All for the motion, aye.
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 Motion passes.
All right, the resident 9151 Rocky Mountain Bighorn Sheep hunt. We had quite a bit of internal discussion the last few weeks, and we've looked into the zero quota as an option for units 101 and 102. And I think that is what we would ask as an agency, would be our correction, I guess, to that quota of 1 and 1 is to have a zero quota in both of those units. Each and all applicants that are unsuccessful will simply receive their bonus point. So everyone will be treated as unsuccessful. The season is technically open That's important from the standpoint that we have a deferred military person who deferred his tag last year, would have his first opportunity to use it this year. If he so chooses, he could use it this year. We're still unsure, and everyone is, even if we see 20, 30 today out there that have survived, we don't know what the final mortality count will be. So yeah, that's, I guess we're throwing that out.
Okay, is Steve here? Why don't you come on up here and
Steve Tartaglia, representing my son Troy, who's a Navy pilot. Basically, it's too bad he didn't hunt last year, but he wasn't around. So we're willing to work with the department no matter what the decision is. I've talked to numerous people. I lived in Elko for 15 years. Troy grew up in Elko. We would love to use the tag if there's a huntable population, and the decision that we need to make, and until the department knows or we learn from local knowledge, we don't know if there'll be a huntable population there or not. What we don't want is we don't want to lose the tag, so we kind of have to do what the state and the department tells us we have to do. If we're going to close the unit starting this year or in the future, which I believe is a great possibility, there's no guarantee that if that tag that he's sitting on is a good tag until the unit is reopened, that he's not going to be deployed again at that point. So I guess what I'm asking is if that tag sits, does it sit until he is able to hunt in an open season, whether it be 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now? Basically, other discussions, if there's a huntable population up there, if there's people have seen 6 rams either through department survey or local knowledge, I guess we're going hunting. Anybody have any questions for me? I'm kind of speaking for him, so.
let me talk to him. I'll tell you the way I understand it. You might be able, if there's one sheep up there, I'd hate to see him shot, but now does he have to give his tag up by the 15th of July?
Maureen, we believe that.
And it was going to be, if you don't use it, he can carry it over till we have a next huntable season?
Yeah, I think we'll have Maureen Hollinger explain, and we've gone through several scenarios of it being suspended, when he has to notify us of when he's going to use it and all that, so we'll let Maureen
So we'll get the straight information here for you, Steve.
This is for Hunt 102, right? Unit.
It's 102.
102.
Correct.
For the record, Maureen Hollinger, Nevada Department of Wildlife. On the military deferment, when they defer a tag, turn it in for a deferment, they have 2 years following that to utilize that deferment. This is the first year for Troy on that 2-year deferment. If they choose to sit out this year and the department closes that unit next year, he's in a holding pattern until the department opens that unit up for a hunt again, if it opens up for a hunt again too. You know, you got to keep that in mind, because but you know, we've had die-offs before and we've opened the hunt back up in the past, so there's that option that he has to think about. Should he take the tag this year, if he gets deployed again, he could potentially defer it again, because he's taken the tag, he's accepted the tag with the hopes of going in the field. But if he gets deployed again, it starts the deferment clock. If he turns it in, it's a whole fresh deferment. If he takes the tag and decides to turn it in by July 15th, on the any reason, then he falls into that category. So, because you remember, the July 15th cutoff is for the any reason regulation of turning a tag in for the bighorn sheep. So those are the options available to Mr. Tartaglia at this time.
But for the any reason, he can't opt to get another tag
No,
later.
he can't.
Really
He
not an
gets his
option
bonus
for-
points
You want the
reinstated, and he
tag.
gets the refunds. So he'd be back into the pool of hunters in the draw if he did it.
If you turn the tag back
He already
in,
won the lottery.
If he took the tag and turned it in by July 15th.
he'd go back in the bonus pool.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, that's not an option for him.
Thanks,
No,
man.
You know, you have to look at this tag, we look at it as a once-in-a-lifetime tag. To turn it back in, get your money back and your bonus points back, he'll never draw this tag again, even though he's pretty lucky. But we're either going to sit or we're going to hunt.
I just want to make my point clear. I think the military, we're going to do everything we can to give a military person's tag. That's why we put that deferment up. He's entitled to it, and we're going to do everything we can to get him his tag. He deserves it, and I think this commission should do everything to, he's supporting our country. Go ahead, Tom.
For the record, Tom Casanelli with Humboldt County. I did disclose that my best friend's boy had this tag at our meeting, and we've been working on this with the department pretty close on what we were going to do. And so we had a lot of discussion at our meeting here about this. And we have some big concerns, and the department hasn't even flown yet. I hate to set a zero quota, especially for the rubies where this tag is. There's going to be 2 tags there, but that's where the die-off is not at its max. And if we set a zero quota and there's a lot of young rams left and 4 or 5 mature rams, I hate to close that season prior to those rams being harvested. In fact, if there was enough rams to breed our ewes, we got to do our flights first. And I don't know if there's a way that this commission can let the draw go with 1 tag and then give that guy the same option as Troy has. Okay, we did our flights. There is not a quota up there. There is no harvestable rams that we could conclude, but we are willing to give this tag the first option when the season opens up, and roll that tag over to the end. That way, if there are harvestable rams, if we go 5 years with a closed season, those rams are going to die on the mountain, and the sportsmen are not going to have a chance. And I hate to see that happen. And that's why we're working so close with the department. We'd like to see the flight and see what they have. We know we've had some friends that seen 40 rams, and they were in Lamoille Canyon.
40 sheep.
40 sheep, 2 rams, 2 mature rams in that bunch, and that's just with no access. It's been pretty tough to get in there, so there are 2 mature rams in that bunch there. So there's a possibility when they do get to do their flights that there's a few mature rams there. And I hate to waste that resource for the sportsman. But I don't know if that's a viable conclusion where we could let this draw go and also make it at the point that I draw the tag or Mike draws the tag. The department comes to you and say, hey, we did our flights. You can use this tag, but you're going to get, there's just no rams up there. And we would give you this, and I don't think there's a sportsman in the state that wouldn't say, hey, I'm going to wait until the season opens back up to harvest when knowing. And I don't know if that's an option or not.
That's not an option.
That is not an option.
The only 2 options are is you go with the zero quota, or you leave it at 1, and then that hunter can turn the tag back before July 15th, and it's like nothing happened. But we can't make any other exceptions. Those are out there on the table.
Well, the word I have, there is one shootable ram. There was one shootable ram. He might have died. He was pretty healthy when I heard last, and he's supposed to be a real nice one in the East Humboldts. I know there's 2 shootable rams in the Rubies, and we haven't even done a flight. So odds are that there's some shootable rams there for a quota of 1. And I'm not sure the department has a better handle on that.
Not at this time.
So until we do our flights, we really don't know.
You're not sure that one's gonna be harvested, and I think as a commission, we gotta err on the safe side and assume that, you know, the die-off is still continuing from what we heard yesterday. And with the die-off still continuing, you know, we can't gamble that there's gonna be any suitable ram. If there is one ram, if you find out after you fly it this summer, and you find we'll have the season next year, and, you know.
Quota 6, yeah, next
And
year.
I guess that's a reasonable request. I mean, that ram's not gonna die in 2 years. I would hope that would happen, that
Oh,
we
no,
don't leave harvestable rams
If there's
die
rams,
off.
and they fly it, and they give us a survey, and they said there's harvestable rams, this commission is the first to open the season on it. I mean, I don't think you have a problem there. And the department would have no reservations advising us and recommending that.
And my view on Troy, speaking for Tom Casanelli, is we're sitting in the best seat of all for this. It's too bad we didn't use it last year, but we've got the option. The other concerns I have, if there's a 0 season, does he get, this is a question from Marine, does he get to keep his 1 year deferment? He may be deferred when this opens back up. And say he doesn't use this tag this year, and the season's got a 0 quota, and it opens up in 2000, what will we say?
It's deferred until the next season.
But could he defer it again, because he may be deferred at that time? Now we're sitting
Could
where
we
we're
talk
not.
about this privately?
You mean he may be
There's two-
deployed?
Can they discuss this?
Let's just finish up, and then we gotta go on.
This is Maureen from Nevada Department of Wildlife. Even with a 0 quota, it's technically open, so if he chooses not to take the tag this year, it's his first year on the 2-year deferment. If he takes the tag and then gets deployed, because he accepts the tag, the way the regulation reads, is because he's accepted the tag from the department, it starts and then he gets deployed again, then his 2-year deferment starts again, because it's a separate deployment. Okay, so I hope that answered the question, because once he accepts the tag, that wipes out the original deferment. Okay. If he accepts the tag, it's still an open season. The way the regulation reads, has to be an open season. If they close the season, then he's in a holding pattern, but we're not talking about closing the season today. So it's still open even with 0 quota.
I think he understands that too.
And that's where we run into a problem, because we don't know, we might be forced into hunting this year. We may be forced into hunting this year because he's an admiral's aide. We don't know where he's going to be stationed. Right now he's in Fallon. We don't know where he's going to be deployed in 5 years, and it's a possibility that if we run that deployment or that deferment out in the 5 years, we lose the tag. So.
No, if we don't have a season, he won't, as long as we don't have a season.
No, but when it opens up.
When it opens up,
he has to hunt that year.
No, then he can, and he gets deployed, he can ask for another deferment, starts a 2-year ticker again.
If he's deployed.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say he opts not to take the tag, we have a 0 quota, we have a closed season the next 2 years, and we open it up. He then chooses to take the tag, because the first year open, that's a good deal, and then he gets deployed, he applies for another deferment.
2 years.
For 2 years.
That works out perfect.
Yeah.
And the best case scenario is we fly and there's enough sheep up there to have a hunt this year, and we got the mountain to ourselves.
Sure, you got,
And you got
nobody
the
up
mountain
there.
yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Totally.
come on.
Yeah.
Go to the Boy Scout camp.
Candido Mendy, Velco Cab. We were the ones that proposed it, along with White Pine. The reason being that they're just continuing to die. One individual I talked to at the night of the game board meeting said that he had found 4 of them dead in the East Humboldts, and there were 7 or 8 sheep around him, 3 or 4 below him, 3 or 4 above him. The 3 above him consisted of a 4, 5, 6-year-old ram, a ewe, and a lamb. All 3 were coughing.
Yeah.
So, and then yesterday we learned that cold weather and moisture are hard on this disease. Between Monday and Wednesday of this week, the Snowtail satellite in Lamoille Canyon registered 34 inches of snow and 5 inches or 4 inches of water. So that storm that came in hit us. George had 10 inches of snow at his place. I had about 6 inches at my place, and we live below the mountain. And it was up on the mountain was 30. The Snowtail satellite sits at 7,700 feet, and it had 34 inches of new snow. So these sheep are right in the middle of that. And the people I've talked to around town that go up and look at the sheep said you don't find them hardly anymore up in Lamoille Canyon. As a resident, we go up there all winter and watch them, and they're just disappearing. So,
Thank you. Okay. We'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. What do you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a clarification. Did,
Commissioner Howell?
Mike, did you recommend changing your proposed quota to 0 on those two, 101 and 102?
Yes, that's the agency's recommendation.
So that's an automatic. With that said, I move that we approve hunt number 9151 as proposed by the department. Total of 4 tags.
Second.
My sheet says 1, so does that mean we should change the,
1 to 0.
Just go ahead and read all 4 quarters
Right.
for each unit.
0742, 1010, 1020, 1142.
Thank you.
okay, any questions? We have, oh, Commissioner McBeth?
Standard disclosure, we got an application for Rocky.
Good luck, we're closing it.
Yeah.
We have
Actually, it was a bonus point. So.
We have a motion on hunt 9151 to have a quota of 0742, 1010, 1020, 114.2 for a total of 4. Anybody questions? All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you.
Mountain goat hunts 7151 and 7251. There was no alternative recommendations. Your pleasure.
Any county board, I should open up to the public, because there's no county board, but anybody from the public? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment section on this. Bring it back to commission. What's your flavor? Commissioner Capurro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, we were led to believe there was at least 1 goat that was affected by this pneumococcus problem too. Were there any others that were involved?
Yeah, we know that there was at least 1 goat that died of pneumonia. I want to say they found. We haven't actually found any other carcasses, but we're taking a conservative approach. You could argue maybe we need to take a more conservative approach, all along with the fact that in '96 we had goats succumb to it, but not as much as the bighorn. So we're almost positive we're going to have some mortality, but we had a positive survey flight in, I believe it was February, and we saw kids from last year running with the goat herd. So we felt that the young of the year were still available and they hadn't died. That we'll reduce the tags slightly, but so there is a little bit of uncertainty, but we're taking that down.
That was the reason for your reduction.
That was.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
You want to take both the 7151 and 7250? No. One's resident, one's non-resident.
Well, if nobody else will.
You ready for a motion?
Ready.
Mr. Chairman, I may move that we approve hunt number 7151 as proposed by the department.
How about hunt 7251?
Thought we couldn't do that because it was non-resident.
Okay.
Second.
We got a motion, a second, to approve hunt 7151 as proposed by the department. Commissioner McBeth?
I have an application for Rocky Mountain goat.
You don't have to go through the drawing with us then?
So do I, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to approve hunt 7151. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Let's go to 7251.
Yes. Again, no alternative recommendations for that non-resident goat hunt.
Anybody from the public comment? I'll close the public comment period, bring back the commission. What's your pleasure on 7251 non-resident mountain goat?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rain.
move to approve hunt 7251 as provided here by the department.
Second.
We have a motion to approve hunt 7251 and a second as proposed by the department. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Mule deer. How we doing?
Great. You don't need a break yet, do you?
Looks like somebody does.
I'm going to start with the 1107 hunt. And what happens is whatever we decide on that will affect all the other weapon classes. Currently, we're recommending 2,762 tags statewide. I make this table up each year just to give everyone an idea of where we're at, both from demand and total tag sales. And I was able to talk to Don Sefton and plug in the current year's tag applications for this hunt. So we have tag, well, let me look at the tag quota. Last year we had 2,800. We sold, excuse me, we had 27, a little over 2,700 applicants in the first draw. When it was all said and done, second draw over-the-counter tag sales, excuse me, we sold just shy of 2,700. The trend in terms of the disparity between the initial applicant numbers and how many tags we end up selling, that gap is getting shorter and shorter. 4 years ago, we had a little over 3,100 applicants, but we only sold shy of 2,600. So there was a lot of kids saying, I didn't get my first choice, I don't want anything left over. Now, if you look at last year, there was only 44 tags that were left on the table. Or excuse me, 42 tags left on the table when it was all 46 tags left on the table when it was all said and done. So I think people are being less picky. People are more willing to travel beyond their 2-hour sphere of their home base. So now it was interesting to see these numbers today. We had an increase of 113 applicants from last year in the initial first draw. Whether those will be less picky, more picky, with picking up leftover tags. But I can tell you that last year, the 2,800 tags equated to taking 25% of the reported buck kill from all the units except Area 10 and giving those bucks to the kids, to the 1107 hunters. To get 2,762 tags this year is our recommendation. We used 23%. So we took 23% of the reported buck kill in all of our unit groups, except for 3 exceptions, to get that 2,762 tags. The 3 exceptions were units that went undersubscribed last year, which was the Santa Rosas 051, the Toyabis 171 through 173, and again Area 10. So we took last year's tag sales times 20% this year and set that as this year's tag quotas. If we didn't, if we were to allocate 2,300 or 23% of like Area 10's reported buck kill, we'd have 800 junior tags. We only sold 339 or so last year, so that's why we've not allocated full percent on those units that were undersubscribed the previous year, because we know we're not gonna sell them all. So we did reduce the percent of bucks being taken away from the adults this year by 2% to get that 2,762. So you've got the decision. Is that enough tags? We see that there's a slight increase in junior applicants. Do you want to raise statewide that 23% to 23.5%? Your choice. And we have one county that had an alternative recommendation to our junior recommendation.
You done? Okay, yeah. County Board. Clark. And it's public comment
Tell them
after.
what I'm going to say when I get up here.
Just about.
Paul Dixon, Clark County. We would like to see, as we talked about with the regulation earlier today, getting more youth involved to realize that that impacts adult hunting. And as we try to look at bringing in the youth where deer herds are now, and most youth hunters are not out getting trophy quality, they're getting into the sport. And as we're looking to improve the trophy quality and overall deer herds with everything we're doing from predator and all the other stuff, those hunters are going to have, and get them interested, they'll be the base of our opportunity in a few years, and that's why I think we need to increase the numbers. I don't know what the numbers should be from what we have right now, but I think that we should strive to get as close to that 3,000 number as reasonable, and maybe Mike has done that in what he's done, and I need you to evaluate that. But I think with the changes in the regulations that we have going forward, I think it warrants increasing the number of youth tags. Thank you.
Thank you. Any,
Just like each other.
For the record, Tom Casanelli with Humboldt County. We discussed this, and there was a feeling that we didn't want to increase these tags at this point in time from my board. I am not opposed to it in the future, looking at it, but I would really today seriously consider not increasing them this year, because it changes everything. We start talking about 1 or 2 tags here, you're going to see this. Well, you change this youth thing, and it messes up everybody else's recommendations all through the thing. And next year, if we do look at changing this youth hunt, giving more tags, let's try to do it prior to this meeting, the season setting, you know, so we have it set. Could we do that? Do it the meeting before, pick the percentage, say we want to bring it back up to 3,000, that's fine. Let's do it the meeting before, then you know going into this meeting where all the other quotas are gonna fall in line in each unit.
And I can correct what you said or wait.
Go ahead.
Correct me.
Go ahead.
Just the last 2 years, including this year, that percent is built into the arrays. So if we were to change it from, I'm not advocating we do, but if we change it from 23 to 23.5, it automatically changes everyone in a nanosecond to the demand success. So if you were to start with 100 dead deer in a unit, and right now we've got 23 of those bucks going to the junior hunt, there were 77 deer left for the muzzleloader, for the rifle, muzzleloader, and archery hunters. Those 77 deer are automatically distributed based on demand success. If that goes to 24, and then we've got 76, that one tag would automatically go to whatever weapon class that demands success, would probably go to rifle. So if it was 1,000 and you changed it by 10, then those 10 tags automatically. So you just have to know that there'll be fewer adult tags as you increase that buck kill to the juniors. But if I do it here, it'll just automatically do it. And all the demand success, the percentages between the weapon classes will all stay in proportion.
My concerns aren't so much with that. I know that's easy to do. My concerns are with all the recommendations out here are going to have to change. Every other recommendation that was made is going to be changed by this one change. I mean, all the counties that have sent alternate recommendations to their tags, where we start squabbling over tag here, tag there. By changing the youth, changes what you submitted to us, which changes what recommendations would come from the caps.
It's all proportional, yeah.
So it would be in the best interest, I think, of just leaving the youth hunt as set for this year and trying to get it moved up next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're still in public comment.
Glenn Copeland, Washoe County Advisory Board. Our board recommended to accept the quotas that Mike laid out. I've been through this 3,000 tag thing for years now, and it doesn't change the numbers. For the last 5 years, the numbers of the drawing for the youth has been basically the same. It's a matter of which parents are going to take their kids across the state to go hunting. If you had 3,000 tags and you had 300 left and you put them all in Washoe County, you'll get rid of them. But that's the problem that we have with this hunt, is that we're trying to get youth in here, and I think that's a good thing. And then starting next year, we're going to be putting 18-year-olds in the draw, or 17-year-olds, I'm sorry. I think, and our board made mention of that, we need to look at this junior hunt and really think about maybe tweaking it a lot, like maybe turning it into a novice type hunting, not excluding the juniors, but you know, what about some of those young adults that have never gone hunting and wouldn't mind applying for a deer tag for their very first time also? So it was just an idea, throw it out there and just take a look at this hunt and see maybe about tweaking it sometime.
Thank you, guys. Any other public comment? If seeing none, I'll close the public comment period, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner McMahon had its hand up first.
Just want to get clarification on the amendment to the regulation. That is for next year, and we're talking about the quota for this year, right? So we don't have the additional issue of the 17-year-olds coming in. Okay, just want to make sure.
Commissioner Howell?
I think I might have a solution here. I hope so. If we take, this is just one part of it, if we take the antlerless hunt and reduce 101, 102, 104 by 238 and add them on to the youth hunt, we got 3,000 for the youth hunt. Or give the whole 372 tags, antlerless tags, to the youth hunt.
Commissioner Capurro?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there's only one problem with that. I mean, I like the direction of that, but the resident junior hunt is for mule deer, antlered or antlerless. So irregardless if you move the does into this category, and it's not necessarily true they're going to shoot the does.
Has no meaning.
Well, last day,
Yeah.
They shoot them anyway.
last day they shoot them.
Commissioner McBeth?
Mike, would you put, there, does that mean there's only been 2,852 applications for this hunt?
That's why I put that table up. Correct.
So there's no point in putting 3,000 applications if, 3,000 I mean, that's a fixed number right now, isn't it?
Right, it might go down 4 or 5, Don said, but that's 2,850.
I don't see any sense in raising it.
I would suggest that might be something we might want to look at, because you're right. Next year, with respect to an overhaul of this thing, because right now, the way you have it set, it's almost going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. If they all wanted to hunt in wherever areas there might be available.
Who wants to do a motion? Commissioner Rain?
Just a little comment, I very much like the way that this is being discussed by Mr. Howell here. I think the antlerless hunts quota should be 2 or something in each of these areas this year. Virtually nothing. I don't think that's the way to manage mule deer in these areas at all. And one of the cabs should have a quota in that 141, and that would be the optimal place. They clearly do shoot many bucks, but there's, if you want somebody to knock off your doe portion of the population,
Give them to the youth.
Give them to the youth, and I'll understand they'll be working on.
They can already do it, can't they?
But yeah, go ahead and increase quotas. That's where it needs to be done at.
They might shoot bucks too.
And they can do a little bit of both at this point until we have a great abundance of deer and we have a real problem. Then you go ahead with the antlerless. But that's.
Why don't I make a motion? I'll make a motion that on hunt 1107, we take the department's recommendation of 2762. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. We have a motion and second. Any discussion on it? Everyone understand the motion? All for the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed?
Aye.
Oh, I guess there's unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you. Let's go to hunt 1331.
Resident, any legal weapon, antler 1331. We'll just respond to comments from the game board as they come up and speak about their changes they'd like to see.
Candido Mende, Velco County Game Board. As you can see all through this list, all the way down the line for Area 10, they cut it down. The people that were there, a couple of people were adamant that they wanted to see Area 10's deer herd, the hunt, cut back. So we took half the increase and cut it back. That was the formula that they tried to figure out. They missed one by 11 o'clock at night. We didn't get it all written down. It was a little bit tired, but I'm only going to stand up here once, but you see it through the entire process. That's why it's there. Now I'll take a step back and I'm going to speak for myself. My fear is that, and I understand everybody wanting to have big deer herds, but as everybody in this room has heard, you don't stockpile deer. The 10-year average is 110. We have 107. I mean, you know, we've got a decent deer herd. If we keep saying, these guys have put out a conservative number, and we continue to cut down that conservative number. So we try to have more deer, and yet one hard winter is going to take care of this problem for us. So we'll be back. So that's just my personal opinion. As far as Area 10 goes, you're going to see that number cut, and that's what the people wanted.
Thank you. Any other county boards?
For the record, Corey Lytle, Lincoln Cab, in units 221 through 223 on the early and late hunts. We saw kind of a significant jump, and we kind of thought it was more of a demand success issue. You know, he got a really good count this year. The moisture's been good this year. We'd like to see one more year consistent with last year's quota to kind of see what happens on a straight basis. We think the moisture content's going to be about the same, the levels. We'd like to see what happens for another year before we up the tags in this unit, both for the early and late.
Shane Bourne, White Pine County. Area 13. We have a population that in 05 was at 3,000. Today it's estimated at 3,000. We haven't had a postseason survey since 07, and we've only had 2 in the last 7 years. With that, we have an estimation for over last year of a 7% increase in population, and we're having a 24% increase in tags. We would just like to maintain 7% increase in tags along with the 7% increase in population. As far as 22, we agree exactly with what Corey Lytle said.
Thank you.
Gary Coleman, Persian County Cab. Our units 043, 046. Every year, you know, the tags have been going up in there, and the deer numbers have been good. And we had a split season, which, you know, I was against to start with, but after a couple years, I started to see the effects of it and how good it was, and splitting those hunters up, and you know, we're killing a lot of deer. Well, anyway, last year we've had that taken away from us, and now we have so many hunters in that unit. This year was just an absolute fiasco. I mean, there was hunters on top of hunters, and not just the first week and the last week of the season. It was consistent all through the season. So we'd just like to see the quotas stay the same as they were last year at 266. Until next year we can try to get that split again, because that split season is really helping us. So that's what we've got.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else in the public? If not, I'll.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. I don't jump up quite as fast as I used to. For the record, George Corner, representing the Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association. The individuals that spoke up at the Elko County Cab meeting were 2 master guides. There are 4 master guides, all members of the association, who guide in the Rubies, have 4 service permits in the Rubies. And they're at a consensus that, as Candy pointed out, they would like to see all the buck quotas for the hunts in the Rubies halved. Their thinking is quality of the bucks they're seeing and taking has been declining, and we can get into that argument. I would point out these are the same individuals that last year questioned the antlerless harvest being so high, and the flying that's been done this year so far. Deer herd in the Rubies is higher than it was last year. I'd have to take a step back and say I personally, even though I have a permit in the Rubies, it's not for big game, but I would still support the Nevada Department of Wildlife's recommendations. But again, the 4 individuals that have the permits in the Rubies for big game would like to see all the buck harvest halved. Those are the numbers you have.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Anybody else in the public? Seeing none, I'll close this hearing to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Capurro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, you have a reduction in the, sorry, I lost my page now, on the Sheldon. Is about the only area that was reduced. Is there a reason for that? 033? I mean, 033.
Yeah, we've got a few reductions throughout the state. That was probably the highest.
Yeah.
That herd is not performing well.
Any particular reason that you, is it predators? Is it burn area? Is it, what's causing that?
Yeah, I think you start with is all the fires that have occurred over the last decade on the Sheldon have eliminated a ton of mountain mahogany and mountain brush communities. Certainly have favored grazing animals like pronghorn and horses. I think that probably is the biggest impact. And then the current feral horse population, as anyone knows, is very excessive on the Sheldon right now.
So that factors into it, the fact that we have an overload of horses on the Sheldon.
Yeah, I mean,
that impacts.
So surveys have been not as good. The fawn crop hasn't been as good, so we make a commensurate reduction.
Mr. Capurro, I'm concerned about this particular unit, so I spent some time with Chris, and if you take a look at rainfall patterns, it seems like the storms kind of went around the Sheldon.
Around it?
And just the other day, it was only 71% of normal, where every place else is 100. So
I thought those storms would hit up there.
You think you would, and there's been playas that have been dry for 6 years now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the horses, there's no question,
And the
horses have impacted that tremendously. I've watched them run wild animals off, whether it's deer or antelope off the water holes.
Okay. Back to the commission. What do we want to do? What do you want to do? Commissioner Ray?
Make a comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, one thing that's been interesting in my educational process in mule deer, I've become leaning farther and farther towards the logic that's presented by some people that are present even, that, you know, when you shoot bucks, you really don't affect the population at the ratios that we are talking. You know, a buck to doe ratios that we're talking. These bucks, perhaps it's even unhealthily high at times. That's not necessarily a great thing for the mule deer population, not necessarily helping the bucks by maintaining these high ratios. It's fascinating reading some of this stuff, and that's makes me torn between two things on these quotas, one of which is I'd like to do exactly what the cabs are asking to do in reducing them. However, I'm not sure that that is necessarily the healthiest thing for the bucks themselves, for the deer population in general, to be further increasing an already quite high buck to doe ratio. I don't know that that's necessarily tremendously healthy for those same bucks, nor that it will have the desired effect of increasing the quality. So basically, I'm a little torn on trying to go between the departments and these suggestions.
Yes, I'll take a motion. Excuse me. Commissioner McBeth.
Yeah, Mike, could you maybe respond to the CAP's recommendations? I mean, do you see any problem with it biologically on some of these things? Or Tony?
No, and the recommendation 131 in particular, the county advisory board's exactly right. We haven't had a postseason buck ratio in there for quite some time, 6 to 7 years. Although we had a significant spring survey, you still don't know what your buck ratio is, and that's probably a safe route to take until we get a fall survey in there. We need to prioritize our needs and try to get some postseason buck ratios in some areas where we haven't got them for a while, so we can better assess the size of the population.
In the 22 units, you know, the weather in there has been very, very good last 2 years. A lot of precipitation.
Yeah, I guess my feeling in that particular unit and with some of the justifications sometimes that we'd like it to stay the same and catch up next year is something we hear most years. Unfortunately, next year is never the current year. Biologically, I don't believe that it would hurt to go with the department recommendation. However, you know, I certainly respect the County Advisory Board's recommendation there, but biologically, I don't think there's a reason necessarily to reduce that. It's, as we heard already a couple times today, there's a tremendous amount of conservatism in these recommendations by the biologists, and with each step through the public process, we introduce more and more conservatism. We're seeing increases. You know, our average statewide buck ratio just grows and grows and grows. Our populations aren't growing. Our recruitment continues to decline, and we keep trying to push these populations, and we keep trying to get not only more quantity, but we try to get more quality at the same time, and we're simply not achieving that result with our harvest strategies as the way they're currently implemented.
Commissioner Capero.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion and preface it with the fact that if you decrease the numbers in one area to improve the overall quality of the hunt, you also decrease the amount of hunter participation potential in that area. So I'm against having an area just to provide a trophy hunt of that sort. And with that in mind, I recommend that we adopt the department's numbers for hunt number 1331.
Got a motion? Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the department's recommendations for hunt 1331. Commissioner McBeth?
I'd like to, you know, this is one of these tough things, but, you know, if there's ever an area where, you know, I'm going to support the cabs, then I think this is it. This is really, you know, their main meeting, and so I'd like to make a motion to amend the recommendations with all due respect to the department's recommendations. I don't think that these are going to biologically change anything, and so I would amend the motion to accept all of the modifications to the department's recommendation that were made by the cabs.
I'll second.
I won't accept the motion, so we can make it as a motion to amend.
It's a motion to amend, so now you need to take a vote on the motion to amend.
Yeah, so now that'd be but we need a second on the motion to amend.
You got it.
Oh, I didn't hear that. We got a motion to amend, and the motion to amend is to accept all of the cab changes on hunt 1331. That's complicated. Any, all for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay. Nay. It's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll oppose it, but I'd like to make another amendment. I'd like to amend the motion, another motion to amend, and take into account the changes from 231, 230.
There was one difference between White Pine and Lincoln County on the same unit group.
The 1331 hunt, Lincoln County recommended a change, unit 221, 223, early from 488 to 421, and for that same hunt, White Pine at 488 to 412. It could be a typo.
That part of the motion failed, so.
Okay.
421.
So you're making a new motion.
I'm making a new motion. A new, amended motion.
New amendment.
Because we have a motion already.
Right, but you're doing a motion.
New motion to amend.
Motion to amend my
Motion to amend the original motion, because the first amendment failed. I'm going to do another amendment. And my amendment is to amend the 1331 department recommendations, but to take into account the Lincoln County recommendation for changes, and the Eureka County changes, and those two, just those two, because I think it made a big jump from 488 to 421 and 221 early, and the late it made a jump. So
I need to be more clear.
okay, to amend the main motion to approve 1331 as proposed, my amended motion was to use Lincoln County and Eureka County changes.
What were those?
To which unit? To all their changes?
All their changes. Unit 141 to 145 early, and from 239 to 215 and late from 27 to 24. And in Lincoln County recommendations, Unit 221 to 223 early from 488 to 421, and late from 25 to 22 to reflect 209 quotas.
You didn't mention anything about 195, right?
That's right. Any second to that? No second? The motion fails.
I need to ask a question. Being as I second the first motion, can I also second the amendment? I can? I
You
didn't know
can,
that.
sure.
So I'll second the amendment.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. We'll vote on the amendment first.
Okay, now.
Then we'll have a discussion.
Point of order, I just want to understand what's going to happen. So if we vote on this amendment, then is there another opportunity to file another motion
Yeah,
to
we can amend it
the
as many times as you want to
Okay.
stay here, as long as you got a sleeping bag.
Okay.
Okay. All for the amendment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed, yes, nay?
Let's raise your hands for the secretary.
I'm halfway
The ones that are
confused.
for it, ones that are opposed,
Nothing.
Abstaining?
I need a show of
I'm
hands.
just a little bit shy. Nothing, you're talking, nothing to Area 13, only the Area 14 changes and Area 22 changes. That's all we're
Right.
doing. Okay, nay.
What's the
Let's
vote?
get a vote. All for the amendment, say aye. Raise your hand. 1, 2. Opposed? You voting, Commissioner Moy?
No.
Okay. The motion didn't pass, okay?
I was confused as to,
It's too late, your vote wouldn't change.
Yeah.
We should just go on.
It wouldn't change it. And we got a main motion on the floor yet, okay? To accept departments for 1331 as presented. That's the main motion. And a second. Commissioner McBeth.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend, which is very close to what the motion you just made, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I want to make a motion to accept the department's recommendations with the exception of the Lincoln County recommendation in full, the Eureka County recommendation in full, and the portion of the White Pine County recommendation on units 131 to 134 early from 195 to 168 and late from 10 to 9.
Do we have a second to that? Okay. We have another amendment with a second to go with Eureka and Lincoln County recommendations and White Pine, part of White Pine, 131 to 134 early from 195 to 168 and late from 10 to 9. Only that part. So we're going to vote on the amendment first, okay? Everyone understand the amendment? All for the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Keep your hands up so I can count. That's 5. All opposed? Amendment passes, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna vote on the main menu. Okay? And the main menu.
Amendment.
Main motion.
Main motion.
He's hungry.
Main motion, amended main motion.
You wanna restate it?
Heck no.
You want me to?
It's not his motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was never my
Right.
motion.
Your main motion would be to accept our recommendations except for the Eureka County's recommendations for Unit 141 through 145, early to 215 and late to 24. Lincoln County's exception for 221 through 223 to drop to 421 early and the late to 22, and to accept White Pines' recommendation of 131 through 134 early to 168 and the late 9.
Perfect. Everybody understand it? I'm gonna call for the vote. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. You got that?
I would ask if we could use our demand success arrays to generate the corresponding muzzleloader and archery tags for those units that we just changed the rifle season for.
Excuse me?
What is that?
Excuse me?
To use we want to stay within the demand success process. So I can go in and change our, let's just take Area 14, for example. I'll change the buck ratio to coincide with 215 tags in the early and 24 in the late. That'll automatically cause the muzzleloader and archery tags a commensurate reduction per demand success.
I think we did that last year, didn't we? The motion was made just to let you do that?
Yeah, I've been doing that for several years.
Yeah.
Can you just show us?
So let me just take 2 minutes.
Okay.
Can we have time for a break?
Let's take a 5-minute break while he does that.